Wow. Hi, guys. Nice to meet you. My name is Hayden 1. I am an actor working back and forth between Hollywood and Korea. It is a pleasure to meet you all. The atmosphere is really great today. Everyone, when you heard hot Hollywood actor, you probably expected someone like DiCaprio or Steven Yeun to show up, right? Is there anyone who knows who I am? Anyone know me? I see my mother raising her hand. Anyone else? I love you, by the way. Well, in fact, I was born in Korea and have lived here all my life. So I'm just a native Korean. Did I seem a bit like a Korean American by any chance? I'm glad you laughed. That's right. Just 4 years ago, whenever I tried to communicate with foreigners, all I could say was, I'm fine, thank you, but I was full of confidence. I was just like anyone else who couldn't speak English at all. So how did someone like me end up going to Hollywood and coming back after finishing 4 projects? Wow, I'm humbled. This isn't really the time for it, but it's coming out anyway. It feels good though. And I finished filming 4 pieces in just 2 years before coming back here. Pretty amazing, right? Even I can't believe it when I think about it. It's honestly a story that's more like a movie than an actual movie. The beginning of my miraculous story was in New Zealand. You guys know about immigration, right? At the airport. A week after I was discharged from the military, I went on a trip to New Zealand. My eldest aunt was living there, but since I didn't know any English, I ended up being locked in a room where everything was recorded as soon as I arrived, without having any idea why. All I had learned was English from public education, but since they told me to follow them, I just did. After 3 passwords, I ended up entering some kind of a room of truth. I had no idea why I'd have to be there. Suddenly, a Maori lady handed me a list packed with English questions. So I said, "Oh, I can't speak English," but she replied, "No, you can speak English." I said, No, I can speak English only a little bit." "No, but you can. You're speaking English right now." And when I thought about it, I realized I really was actually answering in English and everything. So I figured, if this is enough, maybe I can do it. And I went ahead with my first English interview, using all sorts of gestures and body language. And the second interview was with an interpreter. I was practically begging for help. I really did beg the interpreter for help. Then for the third interview, I talked to that Maori lady again, and 3 hours had passed. Wow. So my mind was getting more and more exhausted. And then people who looked like they were on drugs started coming up to me saying, "Hey," and honestly, it was really scary. At that moment, when the Maori lady stepped away for a bit, I turned on roaming and called my cousin. I asked him to listen and try to figure out what on earth was going on. And then the Maori lady started the final English interview saying, "Okay." She was like, all right, but she seemed really annoyed. She stamped my passport with the date of my return flight and told me, "Go, just go now." So I was like, uh, thank you, as I left thinking, if this was how it was going to be, why did they even detain me? After coming out, I asked my cousin, what was all that about anyway? When I said that, my cousin laughed really hard. He just burst out laughing. Then he told me, the lady had asked me, "You're not staying here, right?" in English. Apparently, that's what she asked. And I answered, "Yes, go back Korea." That was exactly it. So, in English, when someone asks a negative question, sometimes no is actually the positive answer. And I was saying yes the whole time. Hey, okay. The lady must have been tired too. All right, I get it. You're not going to live here forever, right? Yes. And by that, I was saying, no, I'm going to stay here illegally. Pretty funny, right? Yeah. And so, after all those twists and turns, I finally made it to New Zealand. While traveling in Queenstown, I met a 19-year-old Swiss girl. But this girl was traveling all over the world after graduating from high school. Wow. I was really amazed. How could someone so young travel all around the world like that? I thought about it. What's the key? Then I realized that she was speaking English, the global language. By speaking English, you can really step out into the world with confidence and make friends easily. At that moment, I truly felt the necessity of learning English. Also, I wanted to go out into the wider world, and that was back in 2015, almost 10 years ago. But not long after, COVID-19 hit. Back then, during the pandemic, when everyone was worried and feeling down, there was that positivity inside of me. He's an old friend. As someone known for being positive, I ended up setting a goal that seemed impossible, but was something I truly wanted to do. Let's become a Hollywood actor right away. For someone who can't speak English at all, this was almost an unachievable dream. So, a lot of people around me actually laughed at me, but despite those looks, I started something called the D-365, the 365 Project. And this project was that if I studied for at least 2 hours every day for a year, if I kept it up until day 0, I would buy a ticket to Hollywood. As a reward to myself, you know? So every time I win the competition with myself, I start making my autograph in a post-it note in the back corner of my room. Like this. Wow. Looking at it now, I feel really nostalgic too. Thank you. But I'm still a human. So when I wake up in the morning and try to study, sometimes I think, should I just take a break today? Or on some days, I'd come home hungover, feeling sick and exhausted, and I'd wonder, should I just skip it today? And on other days, I'd think, well, nobody knows anyway, so skipping just a day wouldn't hurt. I really struggle with myself every single day. I thought some people might doubt what I'm saying. That's why I kept a record of it. Yes. After about 6 months, I started to feel like something was actually working. For self-assessment, I took a phone English test. But when I took the phone English test, I couldn't understand a single thing. I mean, I studied for 2 hours every day for 6 months, but I still couldn't have a phone conversation in English. Wow. At that moment, I felt such a huge sense of frustration and loss. But then the teacher said this to me. Hayden, your passion is truly so intense and amazing. But just doing things isn't always the answer. It felt like I'd just been hit with something. Because it was true. English is a tool for communication, something to help me get to Hollywood. But locking myself away in my room for 6 months and talking to the wall wasn't the best method for it. Then I decided I wanted to go on a working holiday. But COVID-19 was everywhere. Because of the lockdown, I couldn't go anywhere. Just as I was about to be overwhelmed by feelings of depression and frustration, the positivity I mentioned earlier spoke up. Wait a second. Hold on a minute. How about flipping your perspective for a moment? Aren't there foreigners in Korea who can't speak Korean but run shops using English? What do you think? So right away, I sat down in front of my computer and started searching for part-time jobs. I searched for positions that preferred English speakers, even though I couldn't even handle a phone call. That's when a place called Tom's Pizza popped up. I searched for Tom's Pizza online, and suddenly, a photo of a foreigner holding pizza dough popped up. This is it! Wow. And that's how, not in Australia or New Zealand, but in Seoul, commuting by bus, I started my own working holiday in my home country. Yeah, just like this. This guy at my left is Tom, by the way. When I started my working holiday, I set one rule for myself. Whether the customer was Korean or a foreigner who spoke English, I would only use English no matter what. Serving in English was actually really tough, but there was something even harder than that. It was the 1 hour I spent with Tom preparing to open the shop. Let me tell you what happened. So Tom would say this to me. Hey, bring me some brisket. Brisket? Okay. I would just go anyway, though I didn't get it. I'd go and check the fridge. There were things like pepperoni, onion, cheese, and after excluding the ones I knew, there were about 3 things left. Which one is brisket? So I just grabbed something and bring it over. Here you are. You see, we were really busy because our place was so popular. That's not it. This isn't it. Brisket? Then Tom would explain again with a lot of body language, but I still wouldn't understand at all. So I just said, oh, okay. Once again, I pretended to know and went off. It was 50-50 at this point. There were 2 things left. This must be the brisket. Here you are. Right. This is a brisket. If I got this wrong, it would have been a disaster. Yeah. So now, for the rest of my life, Brisket is a word I will never forget. During my working holiday, which I found in my home country, I went through countless setbacks, studying English at home for 2 hours, exposing myself to English for 7 hours at work. And as time passed by, month after month, I slowly started to hear things more and more. So many people who want to get better at English ask me, how can I become good at English? I really get asked that a lot. But now, among the hobbies I love as an actor, one of my favorites is boxing. So I box alone on the Hollywood mountain like this. You see? I really do. And I think boxing and English are somehow similar. For example, let's say someone really wants to get good at boxing. But if you just throw him into the ring without any basic training, he's bound to get beaten no matter what. But after jump ropes, shadow boxing, and sandbag training, stepping into the ring becomes a completely different experience. Just like how, after not being able to use the techniques you practice, you reflect on it, study again, go back to basics, and after stepping into the ring 2-3 dozens of times, you eventually start to execute the skills you can use. English is the same. The time I spent making Hollywood signs in my room, the countless times I was embarrassed at Tom's Pizza, those moments, even when I faced real-life situations, ended up becoming the foundation that made me stronger. That's when I realized, wow, this consistency is what makes me resilient. It felt like having a strong core that helps you get back up even after you fall. Another one of my secrets is exactly this consistency. While preparing for my SEBASI talk, I took out all the journals I've written so far. I've been keeping journals from elementary school all the way up to last night. Consistently, like this. Yes, impressive, right? But thanks to this boy eventually even got the chance to publish a book. When he was in high school, this boy wrote the following phrase on the very first page of his diary. Luck may be something you're born with, but through effort, you can turn opportunities into your own luck. He engraved the keywords passion, focus, and effort in his heart. And in the end, as an adult, that boy became someone who succeeded with his own English project without giving up thanks to the power of persistence, and ended up heading to Hollywood without any concrete plans. Yes, thank you. When I first went to the United States, those first 90 days of the journey were, it truly opened my eyes to the wider world. And it was like a dream for me, a time when I formed connections with so many people. And when I was trying to break into Hollywood, I met a friend named Laura through the YouTube algorithm. She gave me really detailed information about Hollywood auditions. And after I returned to Korea, I worked part-time at a samjitang restaurant while diligently applying for auditions in the US again. And there was a role of this Korean-American gang boss in a short film called The Godfather. It was a character who spoke entirely in English. So I memorized the lines 100, even 200 times, and spent hours making and sending in a self-tape. That's how I made it through the first round, and the second round, and all the way to the final, step by step. Then the American director, Director Ao Chang, asked, "Why don't we meet in person?" That's what he said. But this audition was only for people living in LA. But I was in Seoul. So I decided to be honest. I said, actually, I live in Seoul. What? But I quickly added, wait, but I can really come. I'll pay my own way and go. Are you serious? I'm serious. And just like that, I set off on my second journey without any real plan. Then, as soon as I arrived in LA, I got another unbelievable email. It was an invitation to the audition for the first ever K-series in Hollywood Western Avenue. To Irvine, LA. It was actually an audition that my friend Laura had told me about a few months earlier. That's why I applied. So they were telling me to come to Irvine for the audition. And so I went. When I entered the audition venue, director Jong Yoo-suk from Daejeong Film greeted me with a big, bright smile. Mr. Hayden 1, nice to meet you. Yes, it must have been tough coming from so far away, right? Yes, I really did come from very far away. It was really tough. Yeah, it's a bit far from the city, isn't it? So, where do you live? Seoul. Pardon? The director was so shocked that he couldn't speak for a while. How on earth did you come all the way from Seoul to here? Are you even in your right mind, especially in times like these? While he conducted a very detailed interview about my story, I finished my assigned acting and left. But that day, director Jung Yusuk said something to me that changed my life. Hayden. Yes, sir. Regardless of the outcome of your audition results, I want to assure you that no matter what happens, I will be your visa sponsor and support you throughout this process. Those were his words. Wow. Just thinking about that moment now, I suddenly feel tears welling up. This artist visa is commonly called the ㅅ visa in Korea. Among the visa requirements, finding a sponsor is really like picking a star from the sky. And that moment when I could actually reach for that star was right in front of me. And a week later, director Jung Yusuk told me that I had passed the audition and asked me to play the role of Kyle. And on top of that, I even got the role for director Al Chang's The Godfather. But the problem was with getting the visa issued. The final hurdle remained. If I couldn't get this visa, everything I had done for the audition so far would be for nothing. Still, shouldn't I at least try to reach for that star? So I returned to Korea and went through a hellish 3-month process preparing for the visa. Because of the time difference, I woke up every day at 5 in the morning and prepared intensely with Michelle Choi, an American lawyer. It got to the point where situations like this became a routine. At 5 in the morning, I would snap my eyes open and immediately turn on my phone. I'd check my email. Is there anything new? Oh, there's something from Michelle Choi, but I can't see it. Huh, what's going on? Why can't I see it? What is this? And then, as I opened my eyes, I realized it was all a dream. I had this exact same dream dozens of times. I was truly desperate back then. So, does desperation really get through? 5 days before the shoot, after waiting anxiously and hoping for good news, I ultimately, finally received my visa. I honestly felt so incredibly relieved and grateful. And just like that, I took my first step as a Hollywood actor. After getting this artist visa, there was no way I'd end up in the room of truth. Actually, now I have got nothing to do with it anymore. Last time when I went through immigration, the US officer looked at my passport and said, "Oh, what's your talent?" "I'm an actor. I'm going to have a shoot for next week." "Oh, cool. Good luck, man. Welcome to America." "Thank you." And that's it. And the thrill I felt at that moment was just, seriously, wow. However, when it came to getting this visa, it wasn't just my own effort. It was thanks to the help of so many people I know. Director Jung Yusuk, attorney Michelle Joy, Laura, and many others that I was able to get this visa. I want to take this opportunity to sincerely thank all of them from the bottom of my heart. So, as an unknown actor, I became the first in Korea to be issued an artist visa. And afterwards, in 2023, I landed the role of a Korean American in Between 1 and 2, the first sitcom on the US OTT platform On Demand Korea, beating out 300 to 1 odds. Even I think it's funny. Yes, it's funny, right? I think some of you might have seen it. So, after finishing a total of 4 productions, Western Avenue, The Godfather, and even the musical Dosan Anchang-ho, which Korean Americans in LA have preserved to this day, I returned. The applause just doesn't stop. I'm so happy. And now, I'm truly standing on my life's bucket list, which is this SEBASI stage. Everyone, all of this happened in just 2 years. To be honest, what I really want to talk about is not how to speak English well. It's a story about dreams, about how to live the life you want, not a life you have no choice but to endure. It's about my attitude toward myself, my attitude toward my life. That's what I'm talking about. I believe that the reason I'm able to stand here today is because of the countless choices I have made for myself. When I took on the challenge, 99% of people said, Hollywood? Who do you think you are? They'd say, hey, stop talking nonsense. I was met with a lot of ridicule, and there were times when I felt really lonely and afraid. But on the other hand, there were also people who said, hey, but it's you, so you can do it. That's something really special. If you trust in that strength and keep moving forward, okay, you're really going to become something. They encouraged me and gave me strength. And thanks to that support, I was able to overcome each and every day by competing with myself. I think the strength I gained from overcoming those moments is what helped me grow into who I am today. So, I don't think this kind of miracle can only happen to me. I'm certain. Wow, that person is amazing. That person is different from me. I hope you won't draw such conclusions about yourselves or confine yourselves within those limits. Think about the achievements you want and the dreams you've put off. And I hope you'll try to create small accomplishments for yourself each day, even if it's just for 5 minutes or even just 1 minute. I truly hope that after this moment, you'll experience the power and the thrill of those small achievements building up and eventually leading you to greater accomplishments. Even to this day, I am still studying English and practicing acting in English. And I have been studying Japanese for 30 minutes every day for 11 months. Is Mr. Kwon Pil here by any chance? He is. When I first started learning English, he told me to practice every single day, even if it was just for 10 minutes. I've applied that advice to my Japanese studies, and I've kept it up until now. So I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Mr. Kwon Pil and also Miss Diane, who has been guiding my English so well up to now. All right. Now that you've seen me speak English fluently, you can probably imagine me speaking Japanese fluently as well, right? Thank you. I will continue moving forward. I hope that for all of you, instead of having regrets like if only I had done this or that, 2024 will be filled with gratitude for your choices, thinking, thanks to what I did, I am where I am now. I played the role of the independence activist Kim Gu in the musical Dosan, and while studying for that role, there was a phrase that became engraved in my heart. The one thing I endlessly desire is the power of culture. From now on, not just in Korea, but at the very heart of Hollywood, I will do my utmost, together with my companions, to ensure that our K-culture can firmly take root. We are going to make it happen. Although I am a Hollywood actor, I am still very unknown. But whether I am a famous actor or an unknown one, just as before and just as I am now, I will continue to stand as myself. Going forward, along with the K-series Western Avenue and Between 1 and 2 that I mentioned earlier, in March, I will also be appearing in the MBN drama, The Crown Prince Has Disappeared. And I look forward to meet you in various contents, such as on TVing's Running Mate and in the film lobby. Thank you. Thank you so much. And in addition, my story is told in more detail in trying things I never did before, starting now. I hope you will show lots of love for my book as well. Now, shall we wrap things up by all shouting positive together? When I say the power of positivity, let's finish by saying positive. All right, 2024, the power of positivity. Positive! Hey, you can do anything. I am Hayden. Thank you.